Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, as always, Andrew O'Hara, and unfortunately, Steven Robles is not with me today. He has the week off, clearly doing something very fun and exotic that I'm sure he will tell us about as he returns. But in his stead, you've just got me solo on myself and all by myself. You know what kind of episode this is going to be, folks. So let's go ahead and dive into all of the news of the week. Starting off, Samsung had a bunch of announcements around its SmartThings lineup, which is its smart home platform. And I know this is HomeKit Insider, but they did have some Matter announcements that I still thought were interesting. And what I really like about SmartThings, specifically compared to the other smart home platforms that are out there, is that SmartThings has things that HomeKit users don't have and can't have. So I actually do believe there is a lot of overlap between SmartThings and HomeKit users, and Matter may be the way to unify them. As an example, here in our house, you have like all the HomeKit stuff that lives everywhere, but I have a Samsung washer and dryer that uses SmartThings. It's connected to the SmartThings app, you can get alerts, all of that. I also have a SmartThings refrigerator with a smart hub on there, like the photos, and it can run, the Amazon Assistant and all of these things. So again, just running in SmartThings. Fridges and washers are not part of HomeKit, so that's not a thing. Similarly, I do like Samsung TVs. We have a few Samsungs, some Vizio, LG, but I do think that the Sony ones or the Samsung ones, they have their SmartThings stuff built in there. So they do have a nice ecosystem. Apple doesn't even have a TV other than the Apple TV. But for controlling everything, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. So SmartThings interest me. Going into what they had their announcements of, they announced the new SmartThings hub is getting embedded into new products. So this includes things like sound bars, which is kind of interesting. And there's like this hub anywhere thing with SmartThings that allows them to have these multiple hubs across their home. But I do like the idea of having more hubs spread out. Apple's already doing this basically by building its own home hubs into HomePod and HomePod Mini, so it's not really that far off from what Apple is already doing with HomeKit. They've also announced support for Matter bridges. This is huge for anyone in the Matter space. This is one of the things that has been holding up the progress of Matter. So I know a lot of brands were waiting until we actually had bridge support for these competing platforms, and we had just had this added on the Amazon side of things, and now Samsung is doubling down and putting it in their tech as well. So this is really, really nice. Basically, a Matter bridge is going to be things like the Arca hubs that'll add Matter. So those wouldn't be supported on SmartThings or even the Amazon platforms until now. So that's a big addition for them. There was also a lot of like co-talk with Arca. So Arca announced that their FP2 presence sensor will be rolling out support for Samsung SmartThings in Q1 of 2024. Not surprising here. They're big into the Matter push, and it's just going to kind of allow them to have a bigger ecosystem. We like the Arca stuff. We chat about them a lot. So it makes sense, but they were on stage demoing the FP2 working with SmartThings, but the presence sensor is really nice. I mean, it's one of the very few presence sensors that are out there, and the way you can set it up, basically mimicking multiple motion sensors or presence sensors by being able to section off different parts of a room and triggering different motion events. It's a really, really cool product, and it makes sense that they're highlighting it as much as they are, at least talking about Arca. Our next piece of news in this exciting episode of HomeKit Insider, we have Nanoleaf holiday lights. These are not cheap. They're going to run you $150 a strand, but Nanoleaf has new Matter-enabled holiday lights. So whether you want to call them Christmas lights, holiday, festive lights, anything like that, but they're twinkle lights. They're the little LED bulbs, multicolor, that are going to go, down your stairs, anything like that. Let's see. So these are going to have 250 LEDs per strand, full color range, Matter enabled. They're individually addressable LEDs, which is really interesting. Total length of 20 meters, which is just over 65 feet. 16 million colors, adjustable white hues. I'm interested if that's going to work with adaptive lighting, but I'm not going to worry that much about adaptive lighting on my string lights that are going to be up one time a year. But very interesting regardless. So yeah, these are going to be available. They're up for pre-order now, so 120 bucks. 120 bucks is what you're looking at, and they start shipping mid-October. So if you're looking for another option for holiday lights, this joins the new Festiva lights I believe we got from Hue that now made them more weather resistant and everything with their last update that they had. That was announced a few episodes back, so catch up on that if you want to learn more about the Hue version of these, but these are fully Matter enabled. Hue is also Matter enabled, again, for what it's worth. Just throwing that back out there. And then the last piece of news that I wanted to hit this week is there a new version of the Rise Garden. So this is not specifically HomeKit, but it's definitely a piece of smart home tech, and I really like the Rise Garden that I have. This is the new Rise Roma, and it's a new indoor garden that'll allow you to harvest and grow other types of produce that you couldn't do on the standard Rise Garden. So with a regular Rise Garden, you've got multiple levels. You can just have one level. You can add 2 or 3 on top of that. So you can have a very tall interior garden. They're very well made. They look really nice. They're great. But you were capped at a height limit, right? So the bottom one was the largest opening, and you could grow certain types of tomatoes that would stick within that height range, certain peppers that would fit within that height range, but that was it. The Roma is much higher and allows you to grow plants up to 3 feet tall. So including tomatoes, really anything that would fit in that, you can do. And that is so cool to me. These are up for pre-order now. So up for pre-order, and it looks like I don't know if they're shipping by October 22nd, but that's like where the pre-order date is going through. So it looks like the Roma extensions, so the base will ship right away. The extensions will ship in March of 2024. It comes in both in a black and a white color option. They look super cool. If you're big into gardening, you want to do stuff year round. I mean, we're heading to the cold months here in Ohio. You're not growing no tomatoes. So if you want to keep your tomatoes going, this is a good option for it. So that's really cool. And it also kind of sounds like, I wonder if you have the standard base, you could put this on the top of instead. I don't know. I'm kind of looking at my Rise Garden right now. Wonder if it's modifiable. But I do like growing the herbs and everything else on mine, so I'll probably leave it as is. I still wish there was some way you could control this through HomeKit or Matter. It is fully controllable through the Rise app. You can control both the water and the light, so I can like shut it off while I'm recording a podcast and I don't have a running water fountain in the background. So that's just good to know. So I do have a couple products to talk about with you guys today. 2 of them. What's this here? This is the Steven thing where he shows it on camera and then hides it from you. That's what I did for anyone who's watching the video of me, myself, and I give you this podcast. Before we get to those couple products, let's thank our sponsor for the episode. Sips of water. They're great when you're talking for extended periods of time. Sips of water. I'm kidding. That is not at all the sponsor for this episode. But our sponsor for this episode is, you know them, you love them. It is ZocDoc. They are back with us again. I have used ZocDoc. My wife has used ZocDoc. It is incredibly cool. We always struggle with finding a new doctor. We're going around, we're asking other people in the area, who do you see for a doctor? And then you have to make sure that you can find an appointment. And then sometimes those are like months out. And then you have to worry about the whole insurance issue. Like, do they take her insurance? Do they not take her insurance? Saying it is a headache is like an understatement for sure. I cannot stand it, and it stresses me out. Luckily, ZocDoc is one of the easy ways to help reduce that stress, because they can help you find a doctor in your area. They can find one that specifically takes your insurance, and you know right away there is no guessing about it. And you know when you can get in. You can know all this information about them, and they have real reviews from real users who have actually been to that doctor. very helpful. Like that checks all of my boxes. Everything just lines up. It's so nice. So yeah, ZocDoc. It is super helpful for when you need to find a doctor. ZocDoc is a free app where you can find amazing doctors and book appointments online. We're talking about booking appointments with thousands of top-rated, patient-reviewed doctors and specialists. You can filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat almost any condition that you're searching for. So again, I have used them. I think they're super handy. My wife just cut an entire line when she walked into the doctor's office because everyone else decided just to show up, and she checked in early through ZocDoc, found a doctor, found an appointment at urgent care, walked right in. So cool. So go to ZocDoc.com/HKI and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That is ZocDoc.com/HKI. ZocDoc.com/HKI. As always, thank you again to ZocDoc and, Sips of Water for sponsoring this episode. So, let's get back to it. I feel like this is going to be a bit of an abbreviated episode for everyone. I don't have anyone to banter with. When I banter with myself, everyone just ends up confused. But I'm excited because we do have a couple things to talk about. So the first one up, I have a couple of them, and I have one installed that I've been testing, but I didn't install a second one because I wanted to show it with all of you. This is, I'm excited about this because I saw it for a while, and I finally grabbed them. The Owl Wired, which is a smart smoke detector, basically. But it does a lot more than that. So I'm holding up the box in the picture. My camera hates it, but I'm holding up the box. So it's a security system. It can detect smoke, carbon monoxide, motion, sound, temperature, and humidity in your home. It connects via Wi-Fi. It has a backup battery. So it's a sealed rechargeable battery that you can power during outages. Interconnected, so interconnects with traditional smoke alarms. So if you have like this connected one and the other ones are your traditional one, it can still be alerted if one of the other ones goes off. Built-in siren and LED, multicolor LED ring, loud buzzer to let you know that there's something going on, and over-the-air software updates to keep you on top of everything. That's a lot of stuff, right? It's a lot of stuff. So as far as HomeKit goes, most of these are going to show up, right? So not all of them, but most of them will show in the Home app. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here on my laptop while we're recording. I'm going to go down because I have this in our hallway upstairs. Let's see. So we have the humidity right there. All this is pulling in from our one sensor, and it's coming from our Owl Home. And there's multiple accessories here that are all being pulled in. So we have temperature, humidity, and motion are all being pulled in, as well as the smoke and carbon monoxide. So if the smoke or anything goes off, that'll be alerted here. What I really like about this is that it does more than just one thing. It's not just a smoke detector or even just a carbon monoxide detector, because we can have those in HomeKit, and there's already ones out there that do it. There's not a ton, but there are ones that do it. But at this point in time, not everyone needs those things, because the HomePod is able to alert you if one of those is going off and you're not at home. So the question is, like, why pay for a smart one when your HomePod will essentially make your dumb one smart? If I'm not home, I have a traditional smoke alarm going off, the HomePod will detect that sound and send me a critical alert, bypassing any focus modes that I have enabled, letting me know that there is a smoke siren, whatever, going off at my house. I can check in with the cameras, whatever I need to do that I would do if I had a smart one. So Owl is getting around that by providing more functionality. So first off, there's the muting functionality. So if there is something going on in your home, maybe you're cooking and the siren is going off because there's some excess smoke, right? And this happens to me a lot when I'm like cooking something on cast iron and I got the heat really high, I'm searing some steaks or something. It's going to make some fumes. And sometimes the one that's closest to the kitchen, it can go off, and then you're just like yelling at it. You're trying to get the smoke out of the way so it'll shut up. This you can press on the little center button and it will snooze the alarm basically. So it's still going to be flashing, you're still going to get that alert, but you can physically like mute it while you deal with the situation. Because when there's something going on, the last thing that you need is a blaring alarm just reminding you while you are trying to solve the problem. So I love that there is like that mute if you need it. Otherwise, I also like that they've added this extra functionality. So you have a motion detector. Putting this in your room, trigger the lights when someone enters the room and turns off when they leave. And not only did they add the motion sensor, but they put it in such a great spot in your smoke alarm, which is mounted on your ceiling. So it's on top of your ceiling, looking down into the room, which is the best placement for a smoke, or not a smoke, but a motion sensor, because it's not going to be blocked by a couch or anything like that. So it's a great spot. When we were talking about the Arca FP2, like one of the things they say is, yeah, mount it up high, like mount it like in the corner of your room. That's ideal. So I think having this in like a smoke detector is just a great way to have a motion sensor. Now it still can be triggered by things like animals, but I still like that they actually have the motion sensor in there. Then we have noise levels, so it can hear noise, temperature, and humidity. Noise will not show in the Home app, that's not exposed yet, but you can enable that functionality through the Owl Home application. So you can still monitor for it using Owl Home, and then if they ever did add it to HomeKit, it's plausible they could just add a firmware update and bring that audio sensing capability to HomeKit. So right now that onus is on Apple to solve. Maybe it'll come with through Matter stuff, but we'll see. But then we have temperature and humidity, so this is going to offer you those additional sensors in there, just monitoring more rooms in your house. At this point, I've got like multiple sensors in every room of this house, so this is just another one to tack on there. But it is just nice to have more sensors around, and you might not have sensors in these areas already. I think if you were putting this into a basement, if you were putting this into a hallway, you might not have those sensors there, and it's just kind of nice to see that overall view of like the temperatures and humidity in your house, seeing spots where maybe it is getting kind of dry and you don't realize that. So it is really cool to have all these sensors baked in. This is what the actual device looks like if you're watching the video where our owl's upside down. There's the owl. Okay. But yeah, so this is the black one. They also have just a white one, but you have just a standard kind of dome, kind of like this floral pattern with the dots on there, an owl on the button in the center, and then we have a mounting plate here, which comes off and it just clicks into place, goes together, and twists, and boom. So you mount this onto your ceiling. Then you have this, put them together. The bottom has that battery with a USB-C port, so you could charge it up if you needed to, and then the two switch to manually toggle on and off. I believe it's like the audio and the actual like just power of the unit itself. So you have a couple options there on the back. The one thing I noticed when I was installing this is it didn't fit my standard mounting box. So I actually took off my old smoke detector and I go to put this on. I thought this would fit the same holes. It didn't. It might fit yours, but it didn't fit mine. So I had to put a new screw into there. It was fine, no big deal. It took me 2 seconds, but yeah, I had to put an extra screw in there to get my new one mounted, but it's something to be kind of aware of if you care about that all that much. And then you got this mesher on the side. I like the white one for where I have it, but this is great for other areas as well. So it can just depend on where you are of which kind of color or aesthetic that you're looking for, but these are pretty cool. So I'm very excited. Aside from HomeKit, it also works with Google. Really nice product. I set everything up through the Owl app, which then helped me onboard the HomeKit stuff. I had no problems, though I felt like the instructions were a little lacking. When I started to set this up, I didn't know what to do. I connected everything correctly, and then I tried to pair it, and there was no light, but it had chirped saying it like yes, it had gotten power, but nothing happened, and I didn't know what to do. So I'm just kind of like trying to Google on their website, and after like a minute, the light eventually came on. I'm like, oh hey, it's awake. It's awake now, and I can just go through the process, and everything from there was perfect, flawless, no issues at all. So that is something just to, if you do buy one of these and you do try to set it up, just be like, give it a minute to kind of get power and think through its thoughts. It'll then come online. So I do wish the instructions were a little bit more clear, like wait for this light to appear. It could take up to 60 seconds, something like that, so that you know. Because I was just Googling it, trying to find out, and by the time that I had almost given up of Googling, the light had appeared and I had noticed it. So that's my one criticism of kind of like a setup process. But other than that, everything seems very rock solid about this. Since we're talking kind of about the third-party apps, I did want to have one random anecdote about another product that we'll talk about soon. Um, but I was testing a camera, and it's a HomeKit camera. But like almost all these products, they do have their own first-party app that they can go through. So you're going to go through HomeKit for most things, but sometimes they'll offer you more functionality. They'll offer you like subscription services and cloud storage and whatnot through their manufacturer app outside of HomeKit, which is fine, right? If they offer more functionality than HomeKit offers, I have no problem with companies doing this. You know, good for them. The thing was, they actually had a service outage that took like the cameras offline. So I jumped into their app and it actually didn't even show this camera in my home, and it wasn't accessible, and it was like gone. And this sounds like a bad thing and a problem, and to a degree it is. But at the same time, it's a reminder of why we like HomeKit, because that camera that was inaccessible from the manufacturer app was just fine inside of HomeKit. It didn't exist in the manufacturer app, but in the HomeKit app, I could see it, I could access it, I could watch it live with zero issues. And that is so cool. And if something would happen to that company, your camera's still going to function and operate. So when you are relying on that HomeKit functionality, I think it is a great place to be. So I thought that was really cool. Like, oh, hey, we're having this outage, just so you know, we're going to get it fixed, and it'll be quick. And it didn't even matter, because when you're going through HomeKit, everything is just smooth sailing. So I was very happy about that. The second little product to talk about here today is slightly off left to center again, but this is the SmallRig quick release mount plate. And yeah, we're talking about a piece of camera tech right here. SmallRig is really cool. They make a lot of like camera frames and tripods and all sorts of really nice camera accessories. And even Apple's like recent shot on iPhone campaign for the iPhone 15 series, they're using actually like a bunch of SmallRig stuff in that video, which is really neat. And what we're talking about here, why are we talking about this here? There's a little quick release plate. So for anyone who's familiar with cameras and camera functionality, these are little plates that mount on the bottom of your camera, and they quickly attach to your tripod head. So you have your tripod head, but then you got to take your camera off. Like, you don't want to try to like unthread a screw each time. So basically there's like a little button, and these will pop right off with your camera. So you just take it, and then you bring your camera over, and it just snaps right into place. And they're fairly uniform. Like, there's only a few kind of quick plates out there that are used. So that way they can go between different manufacturers even, and everything will work. So this is a standard size quick release plate. I don't know if they say specifically the model or the form factor of this quick release plate, but I have several tripods that use these. So it's a very known standard in the space. And what makes this one cool, that I think is absolutely brilliant, there's a hidden compartment inside of this metal quick release plate to put your AirTag. And I love it. I love it so much. So both my wife and I, we shoot a lot of photos, and we take our cameras a lot of places, and I've done a lot of things with AirTags to protect my camera as best I can. And a lot of times I'll put one in the camera bag, which is helpful. It lets you know if you left your bag behind, or someone should swipe and start to walk away, you'll get an alert that you left it behind, and you can help track it down when it does run off. But there are, times when you worry about the camera itself, like you set it down on a table or anything like that. So I have put AirTags onto our cameras, and they'll dangle off the side. But then that also gets annoying because it gets in the way of like the memory card slots, and I'm like fumbling around an AirTag to get in there, or I grab my camera and the AirTag is just underneath my hand and it's in an annoying spot, like flicking it to move it. So it's annoying sometimes. But putting it, also, it's easily seeable. Like if someone took your camera, they just take off the AirTag and toss it. This will get screwed into the bottom of your camera as a standard mounting plate that almost like every like professional camera would have attached to it just normally. And there's 4 little screws that have a compartment where your AirTag goes. And it is a plastic bottom, if you can hear that tapping, I believe. So the sides are metal and the bottom is plastic so that the AirTag signal can still go through. I have tested this and I have not had any problems reaching my AirTag, but I think this is a brilliant little accessory that not many people think about. There's holes even on the side, so that way if your AirTag is making a noise, you can still hear it. It'll actually allow it to permeate out those sound waves. Super, super cool. Brilliant product from SmallRig. I love this. I have this on my Nikon. As long as your tripod head is compatible with this, this is a fantastic accessory to upgrade to. Just a really cool piece of Find My tech. Like, it's not worth it to try to make like an actual Find My enabled quick plate, but just putting an AirTag in there is going to be good enough. And I have not seen these before, so just props to them for a really cool product idea. So that about covers it for this episode. We didn't have too much news, but we have some stuff that we are working on. We have stuff that we're going to talk about coming up that I am very excited for. Steven will be back with us again next week. Thank you all for hanging with me through this one. Just sitting here chatting to a camera. All of my best friends out there, you guys are an amazing audience, so do what you do. Give us 5 stars in all of your favorite podcast app. Check us out on youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. Ask me and Steven any of your questions. You can find our socials, our emails, all of that in the show notes and on Twitter, wherever you want to go. We are there for you guys. Let us know. Ask us any questions. Otherwise, we will catch you guys next week.